Yeah, I mean, you always throw them in a bucket of water, let them drown.
The Georgia Virtue presents the Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong podcast.
Thank you for listening. In episode 247, we have the Hoaxes heard around the state, Jessica spikes the football, listeners in high places, lobsters versus whale, the GOP chair and the market for a new lawyer, and the $10 million stadium tour. I'm Dave Roberts. With me is writer, journalist, dog mom, and owner of the GeorgiaVirtue.com, Jessica Szilagyi.
Oh my gosh, you forgot trash blogger.
Yes, trash blogger. Yeah. Anybody who follows Jessica knows that she puts up her mean tweets.
Yep. Because my people never, my dumbass followers, as this person said,
as this person said,
I think I have the best followers in the world because, one, they're not followers. Second, they are freaking badasses. And third, they will eviscerate somebody faster, sometimes before I even get there. But they did not disappoint on this one either. The comments are
so horribly written.
Yeah, it always is. It's never the Harvard grads that are sending me these. I mean, so here's the thing. There are times when I had somebody ask for a correction, or not really, there wasn't anything wrong. They just felt like I could have added a little bit more context, and they sent an email and explained why. And I totally agreed. And so I updated the article and included it, and, and put a little note that additional context was added after a request because it was in the best interest of the information. Like, I have no problem with that. And it makes me be better. So of course, why would I don't take offense to that. But if you're going to send me a Facebook message and you're going to start off with trash blogger in all caps. You are.
Oh my God. You are. Letter U, letter R. And then even beyond the 6-year-old texting vernacular, typos, poor punctuation. Yeah. It's really hard to read.
Yeah.
Like, I get distracted reading long articles and stuff. Sometimes I have to go back and reread something if the phone rings or something like that.
Sure. Or you get halfway down the page and you're like, what?
Yeah, what did I just read?
Yeah.
I'm thinking about, space monkeys and pineapples and stuff. But I'm seeing the stuff on the page, but not processing it. But I had to read it 3 or 4 times. Like, what the hell is this person talking about? And all in defending who?
GDC, Department of Corrections officer, or commissioner, excuse me. Timothy Ward, my bestie.
Oh, Tim. With allies like that, who needs enemies?
Well, and the best part was everyone's like, okay, Tim's mom. I mean, of course, when you do that, if you can't put your name in front of it, then of course we're all going to sit here and joke about how it's you. Or you're going to make it worse for the person you're supposedly defending, You do no favors for people when you hide behind a... And if the argument is, oh, well, I can't use my real name because of my job, well, then find someone who can, just to help with the cause, because, oh, man.
So this was a pseudonym?
Yeah. But yes, but it was a fake account. But, I'm still an account warning from an August altercation on Facebook where I put someone's screenshot in the comments section that they put up and then deleted, and I got busted, so.
Got busted.
Busted.
Elon's looking better all the time. So that sums up your week. Other than you got a new middle name.
Sydney got a middle name.
Sydney got a middle name.
Sydney Lorraine.
Lorraine.
Yes. My mom had recommended that, but I was like, well, let's see if it like fits her. Because, you know, you want it to fit their personality, right? So I had to give it a little time. But after Thanksgiving, you know, we decided it fit. And so she made her formal announcement, got her little identification chain on her for her collar, and it's official.
And she planted her flag on the couch.
Correct. But you did not have such a quite an exciting week.
No, of course, we recorded before Thanksgiving.
We did.
And Connie woke up Thanksgiving morning with the flu.
Yeah. It's going around bad.
Yeah, it is. And we talked about this before the show. Somebody came into the bank. I guess it took the day off of work for being sick with a horrible cough, and came in and sat at the desk, coughing and hacking and wheezing. And she's like, "Oh Lord, I'm going to be sick after this." Sure enough, Thanksgiving morning, woke up with a 102, 103 degree fever. This is like 5 o'clock in the morning. We get up early enough on Thanksgiving to start making the stuff that we contribute to the family dinner. But 5 is a little earlier than we get up on a holiday. And by the time I got up, she was full blown chills, body aches, coughing fits, and there is nowhere to go on Thanksgiving besides the ER. Right. And we weren't going there. Then she'd have the flu, and we both have COVID. And so I had to go to urgent care Friday. But luckily I was able to swing by my brother's house, get some leftovers to bring home because, to my shock, Chinese food restaurants out here aren't open on Thanksgiving.
Really? Just Christmas, huh?
Yeah, and I missed a Christmas flight one year. We did. We missed a Christmas flight because of snow. And had to order Chinese food because, of course, we were going away for a week. There was nothing in the house. We could have made tomato soup out of ketchup, I guess. Mm-hmm. And that was about it in the house. But I was, to my shock, the Chinese food restaurants weren't open. So, which I guess is good for them.
I didn't know they observed, but whatever. That's fine.
I'm sure it is. As a business owner, it's more of no one's calling. We're going to close. Or there's no reason to pay people to stand here and to get 2 orders. Yeah. So we have school shooting hoaxes across Georgia. Yeah,
last week was a crazy week for that. So I guess it was Wednesday. I was, doing my little thing, working, and I'm in a bunch of community groups, but on Facebook, but I don't get all the notifications for them because there's just so many. And my friend sent me a screenshot of one that's a very reliable one down here. The lady who runs it she listens to all different kinds of, she's retired, and she listens to all kinds of police scanners and just reports like traffic updates and stuff on Facebook. And she's very strict about putting out accurate information. And she said that there was an active shooter on the campus of Savannah High School. And I was like, holy crap, because I know she would not have put that out there unless she heard that on the radio. And so, of course, I told Eric, and was talking to my other friend, and we were trying to check all these sources, and Eric found the link to the Chatham County scanner, and we listened for probably an hour, and it was kind of surreal. It was super. We obviously found out it was a hoax, and then we found out a little bit later on in the day that it had happened. I think upwards of 24 school districts around the state where somebody called it in. But Savannah was the first, and that's the only one that I listened to it unfold. And they never changed channels for the radio. A lot of them will go to their private channels so that everyone can't hear it, but you could hear everything. And there was one guy who was pretty much directing everything from closing down the streets and sending teams in. And it was very eerie because you could hear them announcing the rooms that they were clearing. They were going room by room, and then they would check off. This is a multi-story high school, and so they're the second floor is secure, and they're just updating everything. And you're because the rumor right off the bat was that 6 kids had already been shot and they were en route to the hospital. Which you should never believe stuff that you just hear on social media unless you can verify it or find a source or something. But That was what was circulating. And so it took them about 35 minutes or so to do all of this, and we listened to it, and it like sends chills through your body, because I can't imagine like a worse call, right? Like, we've all seen them on TV. I grew up, I was in middle school when Columbine happened, and school changed forever because of Columbine, and we see them all the time. And I think that would be the worst call you could possibly get as an EMS person and police. And after they had announced that they'd cleared the entire building and that there were no injuries, and they had briefly detained someone because they weren't really sure, and they wanted to check video cameras and stuff. But once they knew that nobody had been hurt and that they could start evacuating the kids to safety, because they locked them down after they cleared a room, they locked them down. It was like, I just wanted to like text everyone on the radio, and I don't know any of them, but I wanted to text them and be like, you guys did such an amazing job, because we all hear about these school plans they have, and we don't really get to know the details because we shouldn't, but you just hope that they know how to execute it, for lack of a better word. And I really felt like Savannah just showed out in a really big way, and they did it perfectly. Like, they did the first two people on the scene went in as a team, and then the second two people who showed up went in as a team, and they were all communicating perfectly and flawlessly, and the chaos started when the parents showed up. They were horrible.
Of course.
So you hear them saying, okay, I want you to, start directing parents. They're showing up, direct them to the flagpole, and then direct them to this parking lot across, where they could get access to it. And then you hear officers saying, I need help over here. If I don't get some help over here, these parents are going to breach our boundary and our line. The parents are getting more and more irate. They're yelling. This lady's yelling. This lady's screaming. This lady's, trying to bust through doors. Like, I can't imagine. I don't have children, but I can't. I've been in a lockdown, and I know how scary it is when you think there is a threat, or even, because sometimes in school they wouldn't tell you whether or not it was a drill or not. Like, so I can empathize. Like, it would be awful to know that you've heard this on social media, that 6 kids have been shot and are going to the hospital. You don't hear any sirens, and they're not telling you, but you don't know anything. But the police, this is like one of the few times where you can rest assured that the police are the people who are going to help you, and they have all the information you need. So why are you going to be jerks to them? And why are you going to bust through their line? You have absolutely no resources to do anything on the other side of the police line. But it was the chaos of the parents and social media that...
Well, it was in regards to the last one where the police stood outside for however long.
Yes. Uvalde?
And didn't do anything. What's that?
Was it Uvalde?
Yes.
Yes. And that's
Uvalde,
one of the reasons I pointed out that they wasted no time at all. They went right in. And you know that those first cops that went in they had their pistol probably, and the bulletproof vest, their duty vest, and they weren't going in and SWAT
nothing
gear.
To handle.
Right.
Yeah, nothing to handle long gunfire.
Right. And they wasted 0 time. And the second one, they announced where they were. So the second one came in on the other side of the building. And from then on, it was just 2 by 2. And then after they did that, they did send a SWAT team in, because it takes a little time to mobilize a SWAT team. It's Savannah. It's certainly not the size of some of Metro Atlanta's areas, but it's much bigger than Bullitt County, and even ours.
Well, most police departments or sheriff's offices don't have a QRF, quick reaction force. You don't have SWAT sitting around in a room just waiting for something bad to happen.
Right.
So when you mobilize SWAT, you've got several officers that are probably road deputies that are also SWAT, and they get the call.
Most have to be within 30 minutes. When they're on call to be on SWAT, it's usually like 30 to 45 minutes.
30 minutes out, sober.
Right.
Because I've talked to a SWAT officer. Hey, man, you want to grab a beer? It's now. I got to be on call tomorrow. I can't have anything in my blood. The same thing with pilots. For obvious reasons, because there's a lot of lives depend on them putting the right button. No, that's great. That's a huge feather in their cap, the way they responded. And look, not saying that the other schools districts that got this hoax didn't. You just happen to have secondhand knowledge listening to it. but
Right.
you're able to listen to it
in real
go
time
down.
as it's happening.
Yeah.
And you could hear like the man who was commanding everything, the supervisor was commanding everything. You could hear the distress in his voice. Like when something was really important, he was like, you have to do this now. I mean, you could hear it. And sometimes it was almost painful. Like you're cringing because you're like, please God, don't let this be like what, why he's asking that question or doing something. But through all of that, everyone still was where they were supposed to be, did what they, and I guess it just, we hear with Uvalde in particular, but in general, even in Savannah, there were so many people who got on social media and were complaining after the fact. And I'm like, first of all, in my mind, of course you want them to be absolutely perfect. And I'm sure that there's things that we don't know as the public that they could do better. But they basically got a free dry run and so they can improve. So let's be happy about that. But let's also like say, thank God that they've put these plans in place. And when it comes down to it, you have all these people from all different corners and different agencies. I mean, other agencies were sending deputies and officers before they knew that everything was okay. And they all were able to get to where they needed to be to do what they were supposed to do. And they did it. And then of course, all you have is complaints. And, I know that that's just the world we live in, but, when you have people who are on body cam standing outside a building, just wondering while gunshots are going off, these are people who had no idea what they were walking into, and they didn't think twice about it. And I don't know. I think it's worth point. I've told everybody that I've talked to pretty much, like, they're like, oh my gosh, can you believe this? I'm like, no, I can't. But let me tell you about how wonderfully they responded.
Yeah, that's awesome. I do wonder about the motivation
Of the hoaxer?
for these hoaxes. Yeah.
Well, thankfully, I mean, because how else could we survive without a state representative? But State Rep Stephen Saines down in Camden County, he called on the GBI to investigate. Don't know what it has to do with him, but whatever. And I think they are. I mean, I don't. Apparently, they use like the internet lines, the VoIP lines, and the person who did it obviously has some serious understanding of how to. I'm sure it's similar to the people who swatted Candace Taylor. Like they know what they're doing when they make these calls. But the sheer amount of resources across counties. I mean, as the day went on and they kept going on, I'm sure these counties had like. They can sit there and hope that it's a hoax, but they certainly can't be like, well, there's been 15 hoaxes around the state. We're number 16, because what if they actually were? I mean, they actually had to mobilize. And I know that some school districts just started locking down the schools preemptively so that they didn't have to. Like Evans County, I'm not really a big fan of them at all, but they're very small. They don't have a ton of law enforcement officers. It would have been a massive undertaking for them to just respond and have to clear all the buildings for nothing. So they just locked them down.
Yeah. The swatting thing, and the fact they did it so widespread like that is, and look, the state rep didn't have to call on the GBI. It's multiple jurisdictions within the state of Georgia. That is what the GBI does.
Right. And there are plenty of sheriffs involved who could have said, hey, GBI, we need your help.
Yeah, and if it's telecommunications from outside the state, the FBI will get involved. All the agencies will do what they're going to do. Nobody that GBI was like, oh man, we get a state rep. Oh hell, we need to look into this.
Right.
So Jessica, go ahead and spike the football.
Well, I was right. I think 2 episodes ago, right after Ralston died, we or was it last time? I don't know, but we talked about. You were talking about the treasurer and the funding and everything, and you said, oh, his treasurer would be in a phenomenal position to run for office with all the money that's in his account. And then we talked about, people in the area who would be well positioned. And I suggested that it would be his wife. And what do you know? His wife, Cherie, the treasurer, is running for his seat. There's going to be a special election. I thought that Governor Kemp would appoint, but I guess when that happened in Gwinnett County, it was after the primary when there was a death. And so the party appointed somebody, and then that person went to the general election. It was a little bit different. This is, since the general election just occurred, it's a little bit different. And I think, well, no, he didn't die before Election Day. He died right after Election Day. But anyway, there's going to be a special election. She's running. Kemp endorsed her. I don't know why, but whatever. I'm totally against this.
Because she's sitting on almost $1.5 million in campaign funds.
No, she's sitting on the last name Ralston. I mean, that means a lot in his district. A lot.
Well, it's going to win her the seat. But I don't know what that... I mean, she comes in as a freshman rep.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, they can't go give her a committee chair. They can't run her for speaker or anything else. I mean, she's gonna go and occupy a seat. I don't know. I know there are a lot of wives who have done this, and of course, within the political machine, just because you're the spouse of someone who's running doesn't mean you don't know what's going on. Obviously, Liz Dole pulled it off.
Well, Ginny Earhart, when her husband Earl was a state rep and stepped down and didn't run again, she ran for his seat and won. But I mean, do these women have nothing better to do than to trot along in their husband's shadows? Do something else.
Yeah, there was a rep out of Michigan who the father died and the daughter took it, and that Dingle or something like that. A Dingle has had that district for since Connie was born. So, at least
absurd.
29 years. Yeah. Eddie Murphy did a movie about it called Distinguished Gentleman, just because he happened to have the same name as a rep who died. Great movie, if you can find it. Outstanding movie, hilarious. But yeah, running on name recognition. And look, she's got the money, but I guess she does have someone running against her. Brian Pritchard.
He ran against Ralston.
Yeah,
like the real Ralston.
He said we are a republic, not a monarchy.
Yeah,
House
wrong,
seats are non-transferable. Well, no, he's completely right. He's completely right. I'm happy to see someone in the political realm using the term republic.
You mean instead of
democracy?
So ask me when the election is.
When is the election?
January 3rd.
Super.
I mean, that's just terrible timing.
Is there significance to January 3rd? Other than it's the first Tuesday following the first Monday of the month of January?
Well, I think they're probably trying to jam it in before the second Monday, right?
Probably.
To get so that there's full representation, because I don't know, since David Ralston's been speaker, there hasn't been any representation for the district in terms of someone casting a vote.
Oh, two votes. Oh. 2 votes in 10 years, whatever it was.
Yeah. Taxes and mental health. But, yeah, I mean, Brian Pritchard. Yeah. I don't, I just think I think it cheapens her. I mean, she's not going to think so. And that's fine. And she didn't ask me, but I think that, it cheapens what she's trying to do, because she's a shadow, and she would be nothing if it weren't for her husband's last name. Because it's not like they've been married for decades. Like they met, and I think he was married at the time, and then they got unmarried, and then they got married.
Yeah,
which is happens. Neither here nor there. But like, this isn't some like it's not like she's 40 years into their marriage, and she's. Like, I think she's been a Ralston a couple years. It doesn't matter, but I think it cheapens it. Like,
I don't know. I mean,
find your own thing.
I don't know what her thing is. I don't know what she did before deciding to run for office. The fact that there's
Well, you won't
no
find
time.
out because they're going to talk about everything other than that because it's all going to be that she's David Ralston's wife.
Right. I guess we can pull a campaign page up once it exists. I'm
She
sure it
made
does
one.
already. I'm aware. They could just take all the Ralston signs and put Cherie over David and run them. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know anything about her. Don't know anything about her politics.
Well, I mean, I don't think any libertarians were looking to marry David Ralston. I can tell you that much.
You never know. Alan Combs was married to a conservative.
No.
Well, I threw something on real quick. Geoff Duncan must be a listener
Why?
because he essentially quoted you with saying what he was doing, what he did when he got in the voting booth, where he went in, checked in to vote, looked at the ballot, didn't see anybody he liked, and walked out.
He's getting so much crap on social media about it, too. Republicans are livid.
They are, but it's just funny. Right after you said something about that, keeping you've done that before. When you just nobody earned your vote, you walk in, keep your perfect voter score. Now you could have done that and not talked about it
Or waited. I obviously support that because I've told people if someone doesn't earn your vote, don't just give them the default vote. So it's not that. My thing is like, he's not really like a beloved guy, right? Like, people don't love Geoff Duncan. People have tolerated him for the last 4 years because in the beginning they were like, okay, well, he's like besties with Brian Kemp, and then he did a couple things that people liked, and then he kind of like just stayed in his box, and now he's leaving. So people were like, all right, well, he's on the way out the door. I don't know what his plans are. I know he's writing a book, and I know that, you know, he wants to stay in the public eye about like the new Republican Party, but I think that was if that is his end all be all goal, I think that was a bad move.
Yeah, you know his face and quotes are being used in Warnock commercials. Not directly from Warnock, but from the ancillary. Mm-hmm. See, Raphael gets to go out there and put on cute commercials. You and I were talking about the dog walking commercial. Awesome commercial.
It's a fantastic commercial.
And then these PACs with tons of money and no accountability are running the hit pieces. Which is what happens. The dark money runs the ugly stuff, and you just stand up and say what a great guy you are. But I don't think it was necessary for him to come out with it. I mean, if that's the way he feels, do whatever you want. You know, go vote.
But strategically,
right? I don't know if. He is very, very bitter with anybody that Trump endorsed. And
he almost takes it personally, and I don't understand that.
Right. And look, I've said before, I think Trump should stay out of state politics.
For sure.
But
he's like mad at the people who were endorsed by him, not necessarily. I mean, he's furious with Trump, and that he seethes anger when he writes about him, but it's well beyond that. Like, he resents anyone who...
which discredits him.
Right. Because he also works with a lot of those people, and you might not share the same ideologies, but you had no problem, you know, over the last 2 years since the election, you had no problem taking their support when it was on something you wanted.
Right. Yeah, so I think I said it before, don't go away mad, just go away. Mm-hmm. This is a good time to remind you that these are our opinions and not those of anyone not on the show or any respective company for which we may work, own, or otherwise associate ourselves with on a regular or irregular basis. Also, you can find other episodes and relevant stories over at georgiavirtue.com. So I had the mule of the week. Whole Foods. They have decided to stop carrying Maine lobster. because
Why?
some environmental group said that there's a possibility that right whales, opposed to left whales, right whales,
Ching.
yes, I know, horrible, could theoretically become entangled in the trap lines. Now, lobster traps lay at the floor, the sea floor, and there are ropes to buoys that come up, and that's how the traps are collected. And this group said there is a potential, and that may have happened once, but Whole Foods is going to boycott Maine lobster, the by far largest industry in Maine, particularly in eastern Maine. I mean, it's that and what, cranberries? I don't know what the hell else you do in Maine besides, snowmobile.
Yeah. It's just everything. We've taken it too far.
And it broke the same day last week that Biden was having a state dinner for, I guess, the French president. And, of course, on the menu was Maine lobster.
Oh, no.
Now, on a side note, can you imagine many things worse than putting on the best you have to wear and then being served something that you have to crack open? Now, I'm sure it was all taken apart for him, but she did. Slippery little suckers. Mm-hmm. That was the escargot, wasn't it?
Yep.
And escargot is not that hard to get on the shell, by the way.
No, but...
And I like escargot.
Ew.
But yeah, there's a reason they give you lobster bibs and stuff like that. But can you imagine sitting in a tux or an evening gown and looking down at this lobster and just having a pair of crackers and a little lobster and having a big thing of drawn butter? Like, whoo, how do I eat this in front of everybody? Like, literally in front of the entire world.
And then everyone else is like, not everyone else, a couple people are like, oh, but what about the humanity of the lobsters? It's like when I posted a video on Facebook about what was it? When I had a mouse in my house and I caught it, and he was alive when I tossed him outside, and people were talking about how inhumane it was and how could I do that, and somebody reported my post, and I was like, okay, this is a rodent. It's inside my house. It's not supposed to be inside my house. If it was on the outside of my house, I wouldn't do a damn thing.
Yeah, I mean, you always throw them in a bucket of water, let them drown.
Dave.
What?
Okay, that's worse.
Is that worse?
Yeah. I let him go be one with the world outside. But anyway, people, like, we just... I don't know. Nobody...
Lobsters are bugs.
Not to get political, but nobody's screaming, oh, the humanity over the Chinese being locked in their homes by the government.
Yeah, but put a bug into boiling water. Yeah, and they are a bug. I mean, they're invertebrates. I mean, when we dive for them in Florida and stuff, we call them bugs. I mean, that's what they are. I know they may make you never want to eat lobster again.
It's really gross.
So, judge says GOP chairman had singular role in fake elector scheme.
Tough week for David Shafer. Same judge we talked about last week or the week before. I can't remember. Judge McBurney out of Fulton County. He's like all up in the news lately. He has all these big cases, the grand jury stuff with Fani Willis and the abortion bill, the heartbeat bill, where he was the one that said, preemptive, can't do this, if then, all that. Great sentence, huh? Can't do this, if then, all that. But anyway, this past week, there was so the fake elector story, you're familiar. Everybody's familiar, right? Everybody knows what this is. Do people know what this is?
Probably not. There was a movement to throw out the results and have the Georgia Assembly seat alternate electors. Yeah, these fake electors, the Republican
electors signed certificates declaring that Trump had won, and they offered themselves as the official electors to certify the election. District Attorney from Fulton County has said that was illegal. 11 of the 16, because there's 16 of them, including David Shafer, 11 of the 16 share 2 attorneys, Holly Pearson and Kimberly DeBrow, and then 5 others have their own individual attorney. But 11 of the 16 are comprised of 10 plus David Shafer, and they all pooled their money to have representation. And Willis in Fulton County filed a motion to disqualify, saying that there would be, there's a conflict of interest, that you would basically be like, it would obstruct the administration of justice, essentially, to have them all represented by the same people, because
Fannie wants to divide and conquer. She wants to take the bulk of them, get them to flip on Shafer. In case you didn't know who was adopted, I say that because I've been to several things that he showed up to, and he had to tell us each one of those.
I think he had a commercial about it too.
But if they get them to flip on the chief, she can go after what she really wants, which is Shafer.
Well, and the judge has said in this ruling, and I mean, I don't think it was any secret before this, that David Shafer was very much the ringleader of this. He helped in the sense that he helped organize and orchestrate and facilitate the process that would not have otherwise happened without him, I think, is what the others, I guess, the question is not whether or not they did it or anything like that. The question is whether they share the same level of responsibility, and Judge McBurney's answer was no, they don't. That the 10, so there's 16, but the 10 of the 11 that share the same attorneys are uniquely situated, or similarly situated, but that David Shafer's role was of a substantial degree different, which is
it's a reasonable ruling.
I think so too. And a lot of people are really upset about it, or think it's like a big punch in the face. I don't think it looks good for David Shafer, but I don't think any of this has looked good for him, just for a number of reasons. So, whatever. But I don't think it's like his nail in the coffin, because technically he could keep the attorneys and the other 10 could go get new attorneys. Like, there's nothing that says that the judge just said they can't have the same ones. He didn't say who gets to keep who, if someone has to start over. And I was talking with a lawyer friend of mine who said that it might be in everybody's best interest to get new attorneys, because if Shafer keeps the attorneys, they're familiar with information that could or maybe does incriminate the others, and vice versa. And that wouldn't be to anybody's advantage. So perhaps, maybe they should all start fresh and not.
And that's going to put any other court action off.
It will, and as if this all isn't taking enough time anyway. But I think that's the only reason that I am against it, because it was something that, it very well may be true that all that happened. But I think it's unfortunate that because of something that the DA files, that that could be the answer, that they all have to get new attorneys or start fresh and like you said, slow down the process. I think that sucks.
Well, if the bulk retain the attorneys and Shafer gets a new one, they can move forward, and Shafer will be delayed, and would be my guess. And what that does is it gives Fannie an opportunity to work on them, to flip them.
Yeah.
To give reduced sentences, or honestly, put them down for misdemeanors and let them let them walk off outright.
I'm not sure. I mean, they haven't brought any charges yet, obviously, because the purpose of the grand jury is just investigation at this point. But I mean, I very much get the sense that she's out for as much blood as possible, don't you?
Well, I'm sure she is.
I mean, it's been 2 years and we're still,
Ultimately, she wants Trump.
yeah.
That would be the biggest.
I don't know how you get Trump out of what David Shafer did, though.
You get collusion between Trump and Shafer.
I think that's bigger than her. I think that's above her pay grade.
To get conspiracy? Oh, yeah, I'm sure it is.
I mean,
but if she's the one that kicks it off.
Yeah. Yeah, but what's the plan? Let's just say, I mean, there's a whole lot of ifs, ands, and what ifs in this question. But what is the plan if Trump becomes the nominee and wins in 2024, and this is still going on, and then they decide to move forward? What is the plan then?
Impeach again and again and again.
I mean, I am certainly no Trump apologist. I mean, I've got all kinds of issues with him, but I fail to see the purpose here in the long game in terms of what can truly be accomplished.
Well, that's the thing is there's a high bar to reach to say that one, conspiracy is very difficult to prove. Even if you do get someone to flip, conspiracy is a tough one. And Fannie's still trying to make the case that that something illegal happened. You're right. They're still in the grand jury phase. Is to give enough to the grand jury to demonstrate that something illegal has happened. Then you have to seat a jury that one is smart enough to understand what's going on. Other than the term fake electors and things like that, is seating a jury that's going to be able to understand the difference between conspiracy and collusion, all the individual nuances. And this is where we end up with BS convictions, like on the last line of an indictment. They'll convict on that just because he's got to be guilty of something, so we're going to throw that at him. Mm-hmm. This is where we get them because jurors don't understand a lot of what's going on. This is the case she's making is the cork board with the pictures and the red strings between all of them. So she's keeping her name in the news. I know it's disingenuous to say, well, there's no other crime in Fulton County to prosecute, but yeah, literally, is there no other crime in Fulton County to prosecute?
You would think so. I mean, any of us who live there, have a television that broadcasts there, they got plenty of stuff.
And wouldn't this be in Chris Carr's sector of fire?
You mean like that? Is that not within his purview?
Yeah, isn't this is a county district attorney going after this stuff?
Oh yeah, I mean that's what everyone. That's been the conversation all along. Is like, what are you doing?
Right. She needs to be prosecuting the murders, rapes, and assaults that are going on in Fulton County every day. And instead, she's got this cork board with the pictures and the red yarn tied between them. And this is what she's putting her county resources into investigating.
Well, and I just... as we're having this conversation, it just kind of crossed my mind that it would actually make more sense and be a better use of her time if Trump was the president and she was doing this, because at least then she could make the argument that her constituents were harmed because of the process or X, Y, and Z. In this instance, the people who are outraged are not the people who are being represented by the investigation, because the Trump side is the side that says there was fraud, but she's not going after the fraud. She's going after the response to the allegations of fraud and how that unfolded. And so in doing that, she's basically ignoring all the crimes and victims of crimes of people who elected her. She's not really representing her constituency. So there's a lot of irony there when you really, if you really think about it.
Yeah, she's fiddling while Rome burns. I mean, Fulton County is. I don't go down. I don't go down there without a spare magazine for my daily carry pistol. I mean, it's Fulton County. Fulton County is a dump right now and is dangerous.
It is. And
this is what she's focusing on. It's not that you can have multiple focus or foci in the grand scheme of things, but when she's assigning the investigators, her limited number of investigators, to this case and working this case to the grand jury instead of bringing murder charges up on somebody or taking those resources and putting it into the. Plus, the taxpayers of Fulton County are paying for this.
Right.
Where if it's a state case, and I understand Fannie is a state employee, every DA is, but right. This is the purview of the GBI and the state, and if the state feels it needs to bring a case, and she's taking it upon her.
Her argument would be, well, that's never going to happen when you have a partisan attorney general. Well, I would argue that it would never happen if you didn't have a Democrat Fulton DA, which just really speaks to the entire thing that none of our prosecutors should be partisan.
Yeah, and look, God forbid I have to shoot anybody in Fulton County because I know I'm going up against Fannie Willis.
Well, I mean, I live in Bullitt County, and if you shot someone down here, you'd be in trouble because you got Daphne Totten. So, I mean, don't take a sigh of relief just because you're.
No, I mean, I'm talking about even if I'm right, it's going to cost me a fortune to defend myself against Fannie Willis.
For sure.
There was another story. We're not going to get into it, but somebody in Clayton County had to pull a pistol and stop somebody and didn't shoot. And the comment was made, boy, if he shot and it was Fulton County, Fannie'd go after him.
Yeah, but if he didn't shoot and it was in Bullitt County, he just brandished a weapon, Daphne Totten would indict him for aggravated assault because, and this is something we're going to talk about as we get a little bit closer to session, but under Georgia law, pointing a gun at somebody and threatening to shoot is the same as actually shooting them, as long as you don't kill them, under Georgia law with how we define assault. And it's something that gun groups want to change. But it's because our district attorneys all over the state have made a mockery of what assault is, and they've criminalized using a weapon to fend somebody off.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Well, we'll get into more of that as we get closer to session, which is unfortunately,
don't say
taxpayers, hold on to your wallets. It's getting close. All right. So speaking of taxpayer money, $10 million for the family of a Georgia high school student who collapsed after an August practice and died.
Yeah, what's this about?
So this student athlete was told to run what we used to call stadium tours. You go up and down every step in the stadium, however many times, and usually it's a punishment. Usually, if you're late for practice, you're going to run stadium tours, that kind of stuff. Believe me, I ran plenty of them because I was always late for practice because I was always, flirting with somebody or something.
Oh boy.
Hey, the force was strong with me as a young one.
Oh, get back to the story.
So she was a high school basketball player.
Monty Bell.
Yeah, she collapsed and died, which is a tragedy.
Awful.
It's horrible for the parents. They indicted the coaches.
On murder charges, child cruelty, because she had no pre-existing conditions and she died of heat stroke. They said the school should have canceled the practice, that they had policies about canceling practice if they had wanted to. by every account, even the lawsuits, but she showed signs of distress, and the coaches offered her water. That wasn't sufficient. They think that they should be held civilly and criminally liable. And it was August. It was like right when school started. So this, in November, the end of November, the family in the school system settled. $10 million, because she probably would have gotten a scholarship, was the argument, and they're going to name the school gym after her. Which I thought was a super weird element.
Yeah. I don't know. Whatever makes the family feel better on as far as the naming the gym after her.
I know, but it's just a very odd thing.
The murder charges on it are what, and the child cruelty, and you pointed out so well with your commentary on it, that this is not the Baton Death March. She was offered water. As a student athlete, it is your responsibility to hydrate before getting to practice. You know,
also, your parents. Hello.
Yeah. Your parents.
I'm not blaming the parents at all. I'm just saying if the parents aren't responsible, then neither are the coaches.
Right. The parents could have snatched her out of practice. Parents could have told her, you're not playing basketball. She could have said, you know what, coach, this isn't worth it. She could have said, coach, I'm not feeling well. I need to sit down. As an athlete, even as a high school student athlete, you're responsible for your body. You're responsible to hydrate. We were told, you know, when we're doing 2-a-day practices, I don't even know if they do 2-a-days anymore. When I was playing football, is you hydrate at night and you practice in the morning. You hydrate all afternoon. And you practice again in the evening. And that was during August because we started school in September. I guess now they have to do it in July. But as an athlete, you know your body. And I know you're young and you push past it. But, you know, there were two guys in my basic training battalion that dropped dead, and it was congenital heart failure, both of them. But we were sat down and said, look, let me explain the difference between hurting and hurt. You know, and went through symptoms. And I guarantee you, all these symptoms have been gone through. Did the coaches have the authority to cancel practice? Of course they did. Did they have the authority to not have them conditioning? Of course they did. But I don't even think this was necessarily punishment. This was conditioning. Because basketball is...
That's right. It was conditioning. The whole team did it.
Yeah.
And they didn't collapse, Yeah,
if you had you know 5 or 6 heat stroke cases out of 20 girls and one died, okay, now we're looking at something that, you know, maybe the coach loses his job. As far as murder, man, that's going to be a really high bar, and it's going to depend greatly on the jury they seat.
Well, and the argument is that the murder was that, you know, it was involuntary. Obviously, there was no malice, but there was no premeditation or anything, but that it was in the act of committing another felony, being cruelty to children. Death occurred, and that's just logic that is such an extreme, because again, with juries, I mean, it's like, think about Ashlyn Griffin. They said that she wasn't responsible for death, but she shot him and she ag-assaulted him to death, according to the jury. Like, juries don't understand, because they're not lawyers and they don't live in the system all the time, and they don't analyze, and they're given limited information. And this case is, I mean, it's gonna, when they see the autopsy photos of a 16-year-old and they show the family photo, like, that's gonna be hard, and jurors aren't capable. And you've put 2 coaches' lives in, so we're gonna ruin 3 lives.
Yeah, what's gonna happen is most likely is they'll pull an Ashton Griffin. They'll say, we got to find them guilty of something to make the family feel better. So we're going to hit them with child cruelty, which follow them for the rest of their lives.
Oh, the stigma of that, because there's registries for that.
And there's no context with a registry. Just going to say child cruelty.
Yeah, which,
for the rest of their lives.
You might be on the side of the parents here. Not you specifically, but people might be. But there is a huge difference between if they are convicted of this and this element and somebody who, like the Crockers in Effingham County, who put their kids in dog cages and kept them naked and tortured them, and that was child cruelty. Like they're completely different, but the charges are identical.
Right. And they read the same once you try to apply for it. Once you're out of the system, you try to apply for a job, they read exactly the same.
Yep. Felon for life. I'm sure they've already lost their teaching certifications. I mean, they're never going to teach again.
They can't.
The attorney
with the child
said
cruelty,
that
they can't even coach rec basketball.
Right. They're done. So, I mean, like, at this point, you're getting $10 million. Some of it is going to raise awareness and getting, like, these cooling machines or something for students. You're going to name the gym after it to raise awareness. You're going to do all these things. At what point do you say, we are a family that suffered a tragedy. God took our child sooner than we wanted to, and it's awful, and we're going to suffer with this pain every single day, but we don't want to convert our pain into somebody else's pain. That's how I can't get it. And people, so when I posted about it, people were like, well, when I give my child to the team for this, I entrust that they'll be taken care of and they'll be this and that. Well, that's wrong. That's the wrong mentality, because you're the parent 100% of the time. And I mean, you can guarantee that if you had been, if a parent had been running their kid in the heat like that, do you think that there wouldn't be questions asked of the parent? Do you want them to be charged with child cruelty and murder if your kid dies because you've been playing out in the yard?
And I'm sure this wasn't the first time these students had to run stadium tours.
It's a tragedy, but not all tragedies are supposed to... $10 million?
Not all tragedies are crimes. And look, the school system saying we're going to adjust the way we do things. We're going to invest in some cooling. All that stuff is great. We're going to come up with new policies.
No, the family. The school system did new policies and stuff, but the family wants to do the other stuff, which I think is great. A great memory. Like
if they do,
a great way to memorialize her, right?
Because most of that $10 million is going to go to legal costs. I assume, unless there's somewhere on the back end of that settlement that says that the school board will pay all attorneys' fees and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So unless that's in there somewhere, that $10 million is not as much as they think it is. And I think because it's wrongful death, I think they have to pay taxes on it. So that's all that grand stuff they talk about what they're going to do. They're going to find out that money's not that much by the time taxes get involved, by attorneys get involved, and all that stuff. They'll look at the check and go, "What happened to $10 million?" So, Jessica, on that happy thought, you have any closing thoughts?
I'm really disappointed because I had like a phenomenal mule to add while you were talking. I was like, "Oh, I'll do that as my closing thought," and I should have written it down, but I didn't. So no, I don't.
And it's gone. Mm-hmm. The rail strike was averted last week through action of Congress. I'm glad that we're not shutting the economy down at Christmas. You and I were talking before. There would be rioting at Walmart and Toys R Us and all that stuff at Christmas time if goods weren't coming across by rail, which, I think obviously every union is now going to set their negotiation date for end of the calendar year, because they know that almost every industry is crippling if they shut it down. But I just don't think it was Congress's place to get involved directly. And
of course
this
not.
is after September, when Joe Biden went out in the Rose Garden and said, it's all taken care of. Of course, this is before election. All taken care of. We just got a couple things to hammer out, but it's all good. No rail strike. And he walked away as a hero. And then immediately after the election, they're like, okay, boom, we're talking about going on strike again. And the unions are not happy with the Biden administration or with the Democrat, anybody who voted for this legislation. So, on that note, big thank you to Eric Cumby, who takes our awful audio, makes it something that's possible to listen to. To Jessica Szilagyi, my partner in this endeavor. I'm Dave Roberts. Have a great week.
I've been running from the Lord. Hope they won't shoot me down soon. They've been gone a sleepless night. Try to catch me howling at the moon.